Hey, everybody. Welcome to the next episode of Losing Your Mind with Chris Cosentino. I am here with Michael Recchiuti, a Philly transplant, chocolatier extraordinaire, who was the first person that I actually hung out with when I moved here back in '96 at the farmer's market.
That's right. Yeah,
A long time ago.
Yeah, we tried not to get ourselves into too much trouble, but
We got ourselves in plenty of trouble.
well, it was. That's just how we roll on the East Coast. Yeah.
I remember the best one was Halloween when you and Peggy were dressed to the nines and had
the big
afros.
Yeah.
I thought we were going to get kicked out of the market that day.
Yeah, that wasn't good.
No, it was good. It was really good.
It was good, yeah. But
it was crazy. So, Michael, I want to, there's so many folks who know your chocolate shop in the Ferry Building, Recchiuti Confections, that you and Jackie have had in the building for how long now?
It's about 15 years.
And Recchiuti Confections has been open for?
Since 97, but we developed the concept 5 years prior while we were living in Vermont. But that's a whole nother backstory, which we could talk about later. Yeah.
So I think what's really amazing is when people come to town, one of our things is we have a list here for folks when they come to town, guests, and it's like, where should we go? And I always send them to the Ferry Building, and you guys are on the list to go to the shop and get chocolates. And it's funny when you walk through that building to see how many folks, literally, it's like the signature black bag with your name walking around. I mean, it's nonstop.
It's funny. I've seen women use it for handbags.
No, you haven't.
Yeah, it was really cool. Jackie and I were walking down the street, and this woman had like her little handbag. She had a little umbrella in it, and she had her little makeup bag in it. And Jackie's like, "That is so cool." She goes, "I'm gonna have to start doing that." But
Why
it was
not?
like the small one. It was the small one, like the one I gave you right here. It's like that's the one. That's a handbag style.
This is a handbag style.
Yeah,
so what you're telling me that I need
it's multi-purpose. Yeah.
So I need to use this as a handbag.
That could
now.
be your man bag.
My man bag. I got a man bag now.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you grew up in Philly.
Yeah.
Right? You're old school Italian like I grew up. So, I mean, that was pretty much the funniest start. Like that's how we that whole connection started, talking about old school Italian American food and looking at things and tasting and hanging out and cooking together. But you started there. How did you
what's my trajectory?
Yeah, what was your trajectory? How did you say you know what? I'm going to make beautiful chocolates or the most incredible pâte de fruits. I mean, I remember the day you got your new dragée machine. It was like I thought you were going to be dragéing ball bearings and screws and everything. You threw everything in there for a while.
Yeah. It's like toss anything in there, see what comes out. Just coat it with chocolate.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
So what made you say I want to be Willy Wonka?
Well, I mean when I probably as a little boy, probably 4 or 5. My grandmother's from northern Italy, and she used to bake, and she baked when she was in Italy, but she baked while she was living with us in the United States, and she was always at our house baking and making things. And so in order for us to taste anything that she made, you had to participate. So I was
That's cool.
Yeah, so I was always the one that helped her out because you couldn't lick the batter or taste the cookie dough or taste a part of cake before it's finished. You have to help with the cake. And we would make pizza, we'd make pasta, so we would make all sorts of things. But she had a friend up the street that was a chocolate maker, also an Italian woman. Her name was Marie. Her name was Marie's Chocolates. And so she used to send me to hang out with her. So I'd polish chocolate molds and learn how to melt chocolate and not understand it on a really deep level. But it was I thought it was really cool.
And how old were you then?
I was 6, 7.
See, that's so.
And that was subliminal for me. I still didn't know I was going to be into chocolate. I just thought it was cool.
But that's so cool to think about that as a 6-year-old kid. And you're like, oh, we're going to go down to Auntie Marie's, and I'm going to go polish chocolate molds, which I'm sure you thought was because you knew the payment was you were getting chocolate.
Exactly.
You were getting candy.
And there you could taste it. And, she would turn her back. You stick your finger in, taste the filling or whatever. So it's this big pot of filling. You're like, oh my God, I've never seen so much liquid chocolate in my life. I'm going to eat this whole thing. It's I want to just smear it all over my face, but I didn't. But, she was pretty disciplined as well. So she made sure I didn't go completely out of control. But, it's not right now where everything's much more structured.
Oh, yeah.
In our lives.
Yeah, there were no latex gloves back then.
Right.
Hair nets.
No HACCP, no nothing,
Yeah. different world.
Right. We're still alive, though. You know, that's
We
the
are.
thing. We should tell people that. It's like, you know, with all these systems and controls, it's like Chris, myself, and all the people that we work with, it's like maybe we did things a little bit like off, but we weren't like trying to kill people.
No.
And we still are. It's like that's not like you know, we have some sort of like ethics when it comes to cleanliness.
Well, perfect example, I think, that you just made. It's like we're all still alive. There are more allergens and serious food health issues now
Yeah.
with all these like hand sanitizers and all these things put into play every day now, like latex gloves. There's latex allergies. There's all these things that have basically transpired since all these mandatory HACCPs, latex gloves, hand sanitizers that didn't exist when we were kids. Think about that.
Well, I mean, I think the problem is we're working too cleanly. We're way too clean. Like, you know, if you go into, you know, if you go onto like a metro stop, or if you go into Whole Foods or wherever, and they always have some way you could like sanitize your hands. It's like you need to get some of those germs in your system. Michael Pollan talks about that, and like with gut, you know, he talks about like get out in the garden, get like you know, manure under your fingernails, rub it into your eyeballs. You know, you need like, you know, he's not saying like contaminate yourself, but you know, we did that as kids.
Oh yeah, we had
and
dirt
now,
camp.
like kids are like, you know, they you know, sanitize them before they go out. They like,
well,
you know,
perfect example.
And I think that's where they're getting allergies. This is us just
us thinking, but I think, well, perfect example. How many parents have you seen that take that liquid sanitizer and rub their kids' hands, right?
Yeah.
What do children do when they're babies?
They put their hands in their mouth.
They put their hands in their mouth. So they're ingesting sanitizer that is killing the flora in their system and their guts, which is not allowing them to be able to digest foods anymore.
It's a really good observation.
I mean, this is something I watched. I watched this woman the other day, and it's flavored. The stuff smells, right? It smells like flowers or...
Surprised you can like sanitizer in those little squishy bottles.
Yeah.
And you can just squeeze it in your mouth.
I watched this mom rub this little kid's hand, and the mom turned around. The kid just whole fist in mouth. I'm like, well, we know where that hand sanitizer's going.
Right.
He's sanitizing his insides.
That's true. Like, yeah, you just get rid of all your flora, all your gut.
And then we have
all the good stuff that
all the
helps
good
you.
stuff. And then now these kids are allergic to everything.
Mm-hmm.
I feel bad.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm like, I asked my son, what can I send you to school with today? He's like,
Right.
Okay, that's a good answer. We'll send you with an apple. Are their
Right.
kids allergic to those too now? So we'll backtrack to, so you're working with, you know, down at the chocolate shop, 6. I mean, did that lead to more, or was it just hanging out there and hanging out with your grandmother?
I was always kind of working with them. We also had we had to spend summers in Jersey, in New Jersey, and my grandparents lived in this little town called Port Monmouth, which is like really funky little town. It's on the bay. It wasn't actually on the ocean. It was near Sandy Hook. It was near Asbury Park, all those areas. So we would spend like 3 months down there, but we had to like garden. We made a lot of pasta, but we made all our pasta and we dried it. She didn't believe in fresh pasta. She was like, she thought it got too hydrated. So she liked it dry. So then when she cooked it, that was just her style. And then we would like make jar up tomato sauce, and we would make cakes and all sorts of funny things.
What region of Italy was she from? Because that's a pretty southern thought process to always dry it, because always the content of moisture.
She's I mean, basically she's the family's from like they're more Abruzzo, you know. Okay. So Abruzzo, so that's where like the wheat field is. That's where like the Cecco and all these pasta companies came from. You know, there's a lot of potatoes there. So that's her main area. And then our other cousins when my grandmother remarried, they were all from the north, from Trieste. And they're the Italians that I knew more than the ones further down south. When I would go to visit, you know, and they're different.
That's awesome.
They don't eat red sauce, you know, they eat a lot of salads, you know, they're more fair complected, you know, it's just because they have more of the Austrian, everything's kind of working its way through, or, you know, Sardinia, that whole area. Wow. We're really close to all of that. So
that's cool.
So you got a good taste of that, but I didn't know that. I didn't experience any of that until I was an adult. I never been to Europe, you know, as a kid. So I was like, Europe was through my grandmother's eyes or my Italian relatives.
It's pretty amazing when you think about that American Italian vision of coming to the States, trying to make the foods of home with what was here. henceforth the changing of all the dishes that we now look at. Like we talk about red sauce Italian that we
Right.
grew up with.
Or if it's gravy or sauce,
Yeah.
like that's
Okay, so let's what was your idea of gravy?
Gravy was red sauce.
Red sauce. Sunday gravy was tomato just cooked all day on Sundays.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I grew up with. But there are other people out there who will argue with me saying that's a meat sauce made on Sunday,
Exactly.
which is not true.
We would sear like the meatballs in a cast iron pan
And then simmer them in the tomato sauce.
and simmer in the tomato sauce. It was
Yeah.
awesome. Maybe some sausage in there and everything
Oh, yeah.
else. And then you just like fish them out, put them on the plate, use the gravy like over spaghetti. And we used to have this one dish called Johnny Marzetti, which was like it's like the casserole train wreck, and every family has them. So like ours was called Johnny Marzetti, and it was like whatever my mother had left, she would like throw it in a casserole and put it in the oven and put breadcrumbs on top of it and like serve it. And it's like, what are we having? We're having Johnny Marzetti. I was like, well, who is Johnny Marzetti? I still to this day don't know who Johnny Marzetti is.
That is amazing.
Yeah, it's like, what does that mean?
It was a train wreck of a guy that like tried to date your mom in high school or something.
It's just like bizarre. And like to this day, I'm mystified. Someday maybe I'll meet a Johnny Marzetti and I'm like,
you know what? You tasted really good when we had you with his sausage and meatballs. But when she threw the tuna in there, it really stunk.
Yeah, I didn't like that one as much. Yeah. I like the sausage or the meatballs. Yeah.
That's so funny.
But
that's the same thing. It's like hearing that and then the comparative of Sunday gravy is meat. It wasn't a braised meat sauce when I was a kid. Sunday gravy was you made tomato sauce for the whole week on Sunday.
Right.
Because you started it, you covered the pot and it simmered when you went to church. And you came back. Everything was prepped the night before. You started it, you left for church, it simmered gently all day, and then you had it for the week.
Yeah, and we would make these pizzas that were thick, like
tomato pie.
Yeah, tomato pie. So we would make a ton of those, and we like bake them off, and then we cut them up into like rectangles, and then they would go in the freezer. We had like 6 freezers at my grandma. It's like everything. I don't know what she was preparing herself for, but then like when people come over, she could like break it all out and like have a fun party because they were always into feeding people. So it's like you always had food. Like you never ran out of food. So you're always like
more. Tomato pie was a thing.
Stock.
Yeah, slabs of tomato, and I think we have that focaccia spot here, which everybody talks about in North Beach, which is Liguria, yeah, which is the closest thing I've ever had with the cut scallions and the tomato baked in it. That's
nice.
Yeah, it was like classic.
Uh-huh.
And now people are calling it Sicilian pizza or something like that slab.
Yeah, like Roman style pizza,
Roman
like
style.
A slab.
Yeah,
and you like buy it by the
pound,
kilo. And they tie it up in they wax paper and they tie it up in a little,
which is awesome.
Ribbon. Yeah,
but it's a different style. People don't understand that, and I think that's more along the lines of where the Chicago style pizza got its thing,
like deep dish,
was from that. And that's what I love.
And like Neapolitan pizza because it's from that. That's the style they did there.
And then you got the New York style, which is an amalgamation of a bunch.
Which I love it. There's little skinny crusts where you have to fold it up and try to figure out how to get it in your mouth
before you wear it hot.
Hot. Yeah, you get that
hot cheese down your your neck.
Get that big raging hot piece of cheese on your. Yeah, it's not good.
No, it's never good. But we've all done it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like 2:00 in the morning out there for a slice, and you're like, oh God, that's bad.
Yeah.
So, you're in Philly. You're all of a sudden. What is that moment where you decide, okay, I'm diving deep into the kitchen. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to be.
I think once I was old enough to like, my father owned 3 grocery stores. So like I was working in his grocery stores and doing that. And then, so I was always around food. So then like when I got to the point where I could actually work in a place like a restaurant.
You mean legally?
Yeah. Well, I didn't do it legally. I think 14, I started working at Overbrook Barson's, which was a Jewish deli up the street from me. And I would but it was all being around all these Jewish people and making all this cool food that I had no idea what it was about. So it was really fun to make it. And and then I worked there for a while, and then I just started working in different restaurants in Philadelphia in the city when I was like 17, 18, 19, and just really started working in bakeries and working in pastry and really understanding what that was about. But I always went back to I would always focus on chocolate. like things made out of chocolate. If it was a chocolate cake, if it was a chocolate decoration, if it was a chocolate cheesecake, if it was a chocolate custard. I was like, I love chocolate. So I was baking for the first kind of 10, 15 years of my life, but then I continued to focus on all things chocolate. And then I believe once I realized that like there wasn't anything cool, like any interesting chocolate like you would taste in Europe. I realized that I could, I should try to start figuring out how to make it. And it's really challenging because there was no books out on it. Like no one wants to talk about it. Like
no Google.
No Google. The French chefs were like, it was a big secret for them, and they didn't really want to share everything with you, and because they felt as though, like, you know what, they're the talent. I'm just learning, and if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it different anyway. I think that's the thing. I think it's like yourself. You've always been sharing things with people. You
That's the goal.
Yeah, you educate people, you try to empower people. Also, like if you're a boss, you want to make sure that they understand what they're doing and you didn't leave anything out. And you want them to do it. It also gives you some free time too.
Yeah, little breathing room. But
I mean, you've always been that way, and I think that's, it's nice when you start like meeting people like that in your life. When I was working in Philadelphia, Cocoa Barry in the like 78, 79, 80 moved into Pennsauken, New Jersey, and opened up a baking school to teach people, a pastry school to teach people about chocolate and pastry. And so I started working there for free. I was like cleaning the floors, washing dishes. And then every once in a while they say, hey, you want to come over here and we'll show you how to work with this chocolate, or you want to help us with the enrober, or we'll teach you how to use a guitar. So I started learning how to use all these things they do in Europe because they knew that I wasn't going to go away. I was like this kid that was like, just like.
But see, you just said something I think that's really, really important. Like, you wanted it and you figured out a way to get it.
Right.
Okay. And I think that there's a disconnect. I talk about this a lot with a lot of people in our age group, in our experience and from past. We didn't have Google. There was no such thing as a mobile phone. We had Encyclopedia Britannica. We had Art Culinaire, and we maybe had Food Arts magazine, right?
Mm-hmm.
To get information, we had to seek it out. It was hard.
Yeah.
It was hard to figure out techniques because
unless you work with people.
There was no YouTube video.
Yeah.
There was nothing. I mean, we had squat. So
Right.
if you wanted it, you had to stage.
Yeah.
You had to work for free.
Yeah.
You had to volunteer to find somebody that would, half the time they wouldn't even let you in the door. Right?
Yeah.
They would be like,
Absolutely.
no
Yeah.
way, you can't come in. So you would go and wash dishes and clean the floor at Cocoa Berry, who is a massive educational opportunity just for them to teach you. And I mean, to come from Cocoa Berry, that's a big deal because they were the big egg then. They were like the monster at that time.
Right. I mean, that's it, and like the people that work there were just I think once someone understands that you're really interested, like I would have some of the chefs, like when Bellaway would come into town from France to teach pulled sugar. I was like so into pulled sugar and sugar pulling and sugar work. He would like actually come over to my apartment in Philadelphia and like hang out and pull sugar with me. And I always had a 50-pound bag of sugar in my apartment, in my kitchen. And everybody people thought I was like nuts. They're like, what's up with all this sugar? It's like, because at any moment I would be like, let's pull some sugar, man.
Like, who's showing up?
Yeah. Or like, when you want to, like, and we would just sit there together. He'd have a cigarette dangling out of his mouth. And he'd show me how to make roses, or like, hand blow like little penguins or anything. So like, the next morning, some of my friends would come over and they see like the whole table full of like 50 penguins out of sugar. They're like, what are you doing? You're like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, nothing. I'm just learning. You have to just keep on doing it. It's repetition. You have to muscle memory, passion.
When I was in culinary school, they would want us to learn how to pipe, right? So everybody would.
This is Johnson and Wales.
Johnson and Wales.
Yeah.
You would literally go to the store and you would buy tons of toothpaste. You would buy like the cheapest toothpaste. Had the consistency to pipe happy. You had to be able to write your name in one consecutive to pass the pastry class. So I was like, oh shit, my name's long. It's not like it was like Ben Hall.
Right.
That's easy. It was like you had to write your full name as it was on your name tag. So of course they put Christopher Cosentino. So I'm like, Jesus Christ, here we go. Like 20 tubes of toothpaste later, you finally figure out how to do it. It's like you have to learn somehow. And like you said, practice.
Yeah.
Like making that many penguins. I mean,
yeah, and I just
you still
think
have
that
all your teeth
I do. Yeah, it's amazing.
with all that sugar.
I only have one cavity.
Some people don't get cavities.
Yeah, I know. I'm lucky because I'm not really into going to the dentist, but I do go. But yeah, my teeth have hung in there.
So in Philly, and you're doing these things, and you're volunteering at Cocoa Berry. Did you? Was there a restaurant that kind of changed the course for you? Was there an opportunity?
I think that, there was. I mean, so when I first started working in Philadelphia, I worked at a restaurant called the Frog and the Commissary. It was owned by Stephen Pozis. And he was like this guy that spent like a bunch of years in the Peace Corps and then like really got turned on by food in different parts of the world. And when he moved back to Philadelphia, he just realized that it wasn't really happening as much. So he like brought all these different people in from different parts of the world, from Africa, from Vietnam, from Thailand, and they were like employees of his, and they would all share like certain types of dishes. But he also had a very strong baking program, and so I started working there in their baking department. Just cranking out whatever it is they made for all of their restaurants, and he ended up having like 5 or 6 restaurants. So I was doing that, but then I was staging at another restaurant for free, which was called Deja Vu, and there was a French chef there that I really wanted to work with. So we work all day at this one restaurant, and then I go to work for a whole nother shift for free at another restaurant to work with this other guy. And you do things like that. And then after that, what opened up for me is that I ended up working at Le Bec Fin in Philadelphia. So I worked there for a while with all these French people. There wasn't many Americans kicking around, or it was a bunch of Haitian dudes because they spoke French.
So for everybody, there's a lot of folks out there who have no idea Le Bec Fin. I mean, can tell everybody who George is, Perrier, and the intensity. Yeah. And I mean, I like to say that he was part of the gang, which was Michel Richard, Jean-Louis Paladin.
Right? Like he's like
Andre Saltner,
George Perrier. It's like Paul Bocuse, like all those guys, they're all like of that same kind of like, and so George Perrier opened up Le Bec Fin like 40 years ago in Philadelphia, in a small restaurant. Currently at that restaurant now is where Vetri is.
That's right.
So it's on Spruce Street. And so that's where I originally worked, was at that small place. So that's really aging myself, because from there he moved to a much larger space on Walnut Street in Philadelphia, which is maybe about 7 or 8 blocks away. And he, had a bar, and he had like, a whole bakery set up, and it was really cool. And private dining rooms. He didn't have as much space at the space where Vetri is currently. And then, so I started working there in the baking program, and we had to redo the pastry cart every day, regardless of the quality. He was like really fussy about like every dessert on that cart like had to go. You either took it home or it goes in the trash. He's just like, he wants it fresh stuff every day, and there was like 25 different desserts on that cart.
So you're talking a Ghirardelli pushed to the table where guests could choose.
Yeah. So we had to do that every day. But George Perrier was like, started this restaurant like 40 years ago. He's from Lyon. He has really kind of like intense, rigorous training. I'm sure he's gotten himself beaten up a lot, and so he'd like to kind of express that onto people working in the kitchen. But for some reason, he left me alone. I don't know why. I think he knew I knew what I was doing, and he really didn't bother pastry as much as he did his cooks. He was really on his cooks. He would just get a little crazy. So this guy's like 4 foot, I don't know, 10 or 4 foot 11. He's a little dude. And he would just come in there, but he just felt like he was like, 6'6", I mean, he was a monster.
I've heard stories.
And, when George showed up, it's like everybody was just like, yes, chef, heads down. You get to work. And
they just did a big documentary on him.
Yeah. King George.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear it's brilliant.
Yeah, it's really good.
He just did last year. He did a pop-up at Vetri. They basically took down the Vetri sign and put back up the original sign.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, you were the one who told me about the moose incident, right? Where he took the top off the Roboku. Was it?
Right. He got his fingers cut. I wasn't there when that actually happened, but I mean, he used to take his fingers off he used to remove the lid from the RoboCoupe and put a fork where the safety was to keep the blades running, so he could go in there and he would just have a scraper with his hand and scrape it while he's like making a mousse. If it was like a scallop mousse, he used to have this really famous dish at Le Bec Fin, was like this crab cake made with like scallop mousse and crabs, and he would fold like a béarnaise sauce into it and stuff. It was really good, and you fry it on both sides, and then you eat it. It was fantastic. But that particular dish was the one that got him, that he's been doing for like 30 years. And it's unfortunate. He didn't lose his fingers though. For some reason, they were able to kind of
make him come back.
Yeah, I don't think they're functioning as well. But I mean, he's pretty old now. He's probably in his close to 80.
Yeah, I mean, I remember getting his book. I mean, the cover of his book had him with his chef's toque on.
Yeah.
And the medallion from Leon around his neck.
Yeah.
He's no joke.
Yeah, he was really cool. I mean, I had a lot of respect for him. I think some people were really scared of him, but he, like I think when they realize you can work, it's kind of like Jean-Louis that you worked for. I mean, once they know that you're in it,
yeah,
they're hard on you, but they know that you're gonna
they're hard on you because they care.
Right. Like, I think if you're either gone or you stay, you either leave or you stay. And if you stay, that means they're hard on you because they want you to be better. But like, if they really don't want you around, you're not good. You're gone.
Yeah. Or they don't even, they let you hang yourself basically with mistakes.
You might be there for like a day or two. I mean, I've seen people, it's like a rotating door at Le Bec Fin. People want to come work at Le Bec Fin and hang out. It's like, you don't hang out.
You're full throttle.
Working. Yeah. You come in and you work and you're like, boom, 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 boom. And then you go home or you leave, or you do whatever.
It's a different time.
Yeah. And you learn a lot because it's like you work with talented people and everybody's just really busy. And it's just like you're doing the thing. You might work on one thing for a long time. I think that's what I think the thing in our kitchen, so we have a kitchen and dog patch, and we run these enrobing machines, and sometimes we're enrobing like 50,000 pieces of chocolate. And people when someone says they're bored or they get tired of it or they like want to do something different or they know how to do it, it's like you just got to keep on doing it. To me, you always learn something. Like now we're candying orange peel, so we do 4 cases once a week. So we fillet the oranges, we blanch them 3 times, hot boiling water, ice, boiling water, ice, boiling water, ice, boiling water, ice, and then we cook them in sugar for like 2 days. Then we have to hand cut each one to a specific size to fit into the chocolate box. And I always say to my staff, it's like, this is the perfect opportunity for you to like develop like the most intense knife skills.
And what's their response?
They're like, well, I'm like, just be better at a knife. Like do it faster, be better at a knife, really learn how to work with a knife. I said, this is your opportunity to learn how to sharpen a knife, learn how to like work on a board, learn how to cut things, like how, and it'll translate into everything else in your life if you decide you want to be in this business.
It's really interesting you brought up about people saying I'm bored or I feel like I need to learn the next thing.
That board's not in my. I just don't understand that.
I hear that a lot, and you just watch me break down these chickens for these new dishes we're working out, and it's like when I started.
But how many chickens have you broken down when you think about it?
But I still want to be better. Like it used to be a game. Who could butcher the chickens better and faster? Right? Who could keep all the skin on perfectly? Who could get the oyster off?
Right.
You say the chicken oyster, some people look at you like you got a hole in your head. Like I think it's been saying you're bored means you don't care.
Exactly.
It's about being better every day. It's like I'm far from perfect. If I was perfect, well, that'd be pretty impressive, but we're not. None of us are.
I think it's just discipline. I mean, like I played music for a good part of my life, and I still do. And like I had to practice every day. So I had to practice like every single day. You do the same thing over. You repeat. I play drums. You play the same beats over and over and over and over again. And then eventually you play them a little bit faster. But like I would always treat that same philosophy as I would in the kitchen. Like for example, like we run this in Rober. It's this machine that you basically pass like uncoated pieces of chocolate, which we call ganache, through this curtain of chocolate on a conveyor belt, and then they get and then the chocolate gets transferred to a larger belt that goes through a cooling tunnel. So if you're like there working, the machine is like running off of a specific time, a specific meter, like a beat. And like if you miss that beat, you're gonna like not catch. You're gonna like lose yourself. You know, it's like a drummer playing in a band. Like if you lose that beat, you're gonna throw the whole band off. So like when they lose their beat, you know, like don't try to catch up to the beat you lost. Just pick up on the next beat. So how I got people to think about that was I've set up a metronome there, and I said, okay, this machine always stays on time. Okay, you ready? Okay, it's 2/4. 4/4, whatever. Like let's go. And like if you miss that beat, just let that beat go and get to pick up on the next beat. It's very much like playing music. You know, for me, for what we do, you know, you don't cutting chickens, you might not miss that beat. You know, don't cut your fingers off or whatever. But
that happens too.
Yeah, be careful. You know, don't try to work fast, but at the same time work safely, right?
It's efficiency. It's work smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
Like no one's saying you're not working hard, but
Right.
if you work intelligently, you'll be more apt to get more done in a better quality.
Exactly.
And I think it's a hard thing to, we're in a new world, like we said earlier, like Google, like remember when we would make fun of somebody who knew all the stuff? It'd be like, oh yeah, encyclopedia. What are you, Encyclopedia Britannica? What do you call somebody now, Mr. Google?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, really. If they know, yeah.
Yeah, right?
Like a walking thesaurus or anything.
Yeah, but that doesn't exist anymore because everything's available on your phone.
Exactly.
So I think it's really about like educating and pushing and driving for the hands-on. You can read as much or Google as much or YouTube as much as you want, but the physical aspect of doing it and working it and touching it and doing it over and over again, I feel is far superior to that.
Yeah.
I mean, we all, trust me, I mean, you have the same amount of cookbooks that I do. It's ridiculous, what we learned from. But those are inspirational tools and guidelines to get us to the next step where then we start practicing, tweaking, learning, testing.
Right. Absolutely.
I mean, how many times have you changed a recipe for a ganache to get it to be what you want, or a chocolate to get it to be what you want?
Not as frequently as you think, but like I always look at systems and then change. So like currently I'm just changing a lot of systems at work. So like maybe I wasn't in the kitchen as I have been in the previous years, but this past holiday season, I was in the kitchen every day and I saw a lot of things. The team's amazing. They work great. They're laser focused, but there's just some, you're like, wow, let's find a different way to do that. That's faster.
Some efficiencies and making it easier on the team.
Yeah. Like why do you have to wash molds every day? And then why do we have to dry them? And why do we have to polish them? What is there another way we can do it? Let's think about it. And sometimes there's a little pushback, but now they're seeing results and it makes them feel good. It's like, oh my God, we're shaving off all this time. We're not changing the quality, but we're shaving off all this time, but it allows you, whoever, have more time to introduce something new. It's like, you know what? We're spending so much time doing what we're doing. If we can save some hours, I can show you something new, or we can introduce something new. So maybe you won't be as bored.
I love how you do that with the air parentheses.
Yeah.
Bored.
Our staff's good though. I mean, they're pretty solid, but you do get some people to come through. They
think that they're going to be like, I'm going to go and work for Michael and I'm going to learn all his tricks. And he's going to show me everything immediately.
They might be cutting orange peel for like a week, Like
well, that's it. It's production.
Right.
Well, that's the funny thing. Like when we had Boccalone, people would be like, oh, I want to come over and make salami. I'm like, okay, get ready. And then literally it's like seaming out muscles for hours. And Stephen Pocock, who was our plant manager, would call me and be like, yeah, that guy lasted 2 hours. I'm like, sorry, dude. He's like, no, it's you. You tried.
Right.
They all think it's like glorified, and it's
right.
It's different.
Yeah, it's hard work. I mean, and it's physically difficult. I know with especially that with Boccalone, there's a lot of physicality because things are heavy or they come in cases. And like with chocolate, everything's like 40 pounds. We always say to people, it's like you have to wear comfortable shoes and be able to lift like 40 to 50 pounds all the time because chocolate's just dense and weighty. It's like working with concrete.
Yeah, so sugar, same thing with
bags
bakers.
Of sugar, a bag
50-pound bag of flour, it's the same.
Yeah, so, it's really important for them to understand that like that's all just part of what we do every day.
So you had Recchiuti open prior to being in the building, right? In the Ferry building. You guys were doing chocolates, you were selling and distributing. And what was the first product you guys made? What was the first thing that you launched with? Like, what was your original launch? Hey, this is going to be our... And how did you make that decision? Because that's not easy. It's like, this is our initial... It's got to be the best. Like, how do you
I had
pick?
like a collection, like an original collection of 8 pieces that like, so like just to kind of like rewind a little bit. Jackie and I moved out of San Francisco, my wife, who's my business partner. And I couldn't have done this business without her. She's really taken it for the team. We moved from San Francisco in '90 to Vermont, and then I was teaching second-year pastry at New England Culinary Institute for a year, and then from there we opened up a boutique resort. But the people that own the boutique, the people that were managing the boutique resort wanted to know, they said, what would you like to do in 5 years? I said, I want to move back to San Francisco and open up a chocolate company. And they said, great, well, we'd be happy to help you kind of realize your dreams. If you give us 5 years, we'll
that's incredible, because that's a big...
I mean, when people ask you what you do, am I going to be here for like the rest of my life? No. So, okay, I'm going to be honest about it. It's like, this is what I want to do.
That's awesome.
And so we started. We were able to kind of test products and make little boxes of chocolates and give them to guests for amenities or in their room.
Oh, it's beautiful.
And so you get a sense of like what people like, what they don't like. So what happened was that first 8 pieces of chocolate really evolved from me having people taste them and what people responded to positively. So that's where that first kind of 8-piece box came from. When you asked me that question, like, what's the first thing you did? So I did like the first 8 flavors, which was, sesame, Kona, bergamot tea, all those types of flavors. We did a lot of herb infused and tea flavors, straight up dark chocolate, and burnt sugar chocolate. So we did those flavors, and then the only other thing we did was we did sliced marinated pears in key lime juice and sugar, and then we basically sliced pear really thin, fresh pear that was green, not ripe, really hard. Sliced it thin and then marinated it in key lime juice and sugar for like a day or so. And then we would remove them and place them on little mats. We call them seal pat mats, or you can do parchment paper. And we would dry them in the oven for like 2 hours. And then we would dip them in dark chocolate. So we had these key lime pears, and then we had the box of 8 chocolates, and then we came out with the orange peel, the candied orange peel.
Yep.
So we had a little bag of candied orange peel, a little bag of key lime pears, and the 8-piece box of chocolate.
And then that's where I met Michael, at the farmer's market.
So then I started selling at the farmer's market on Green Street, which was down the street north of the Ferry building, like about, I don't know, 3/4 of a mile. It was in a parking lot. So it's like
literally in a parking
So on this weekend, and then Chris would walk up and he would bring me he would walk up to my booth and he would bring me like a Buddha's hand. He's like, and then he would like talk about like doing something with the Buddha's hand and can we candy this and crystallize it? And we'd stand there and he'd have a knife with him or something. He'd cut it up and and people are standing around looking at us like we're crazy, but
Yeah, like the worst part is I was deterring people from buying chocolate because I was in the way. And we were sitting there mucking about with anything I could get my hands on because
But we were excited about food.
It was the first time for me that after moving here, that I could actually sit down and have a conversation, a collective. It was like a brain collective. Like you and I would dissect things. It's like, what do you have to do? Because for those of you who don't know Buddha's Hand Citron, it looks like a yellow octopus with no fruit inside. It's all pith, the white.
So flavorful.
Super flavorful. And you guys all know it as citron vodka, right? That's that aroma you get. And I wanted to figure, I shaved it raw, but what we figured out was that was what they were putting in panettone, and that was the candy that they were making all throughout Italy. But what other ways could we use it?
Right.
We were eating it, pickled. We tried it. I would bring it back to the restaurant and it'd be like, Michael would stop by the next day. It would be pickled, candied, sauteed, graded. I mean, we had it. God, there was one day we tried one thing like 14 ways, and that was great for me, and it was fun. And hoping it was fun for you because I didn't know. Like I had nobody to bounce ideas off.
Yeah, I mean, we spent a lot of time exchanging ideas. I've been the Encanto, the restaurant that Chris had for many years. He had that restaurant. And we would just like have special dinners, and he would invite me over for special dinners, and we would just play around. Or if it was like, look at his baking program, and we would do whatever with his baking program. So it wasn't, even though I have a strong chocolate background, I'm very passionate about savory, and I'm always been passionate about baking. But chocolate has definitely been the focus for the last 24 years. Oh my gosh.
It's amazing.
It's since 97.
Well, what's amazing is Michael came. We did the launch for A Devil in the Kitchen, which was Marco Pierre White's biography, and Michael came and did the dessert for that.
But we were all terrified.
We were terrified.
We thought we were going to get our heads chopped off or something. We had no idea like how Marco was going to behave around us, and he was like an absolute gentleman. He was like,
it was so funny,
a sweetheart,
hanging out with him, going out with him for dinner that night after, but him laughing and looking at me in the face and saying, "Oh, I remember you. I told you to fuck off and slam the door in your face when you tried to stage at Harvey's." And we all just were like, "Yes, Marco,
yes,
chef, that was me." Yeah. And he threw a guest out that night. Remember the guy that said he wanted his squab well done, and Marco told him to fuck off. And yeah, it was an interesting evening.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. We had a good time. So
but Michael and I have always done stuff like that, and I think, that's why.
I had that big block of ice on the counter at the bar.
Yeah.
And I shaved it with like an old like wood plane.
That's right.
And we did like a shave ice thing, and then we did like a plated dessert, and then we did like I think I helped it with like a little amuse or something. But it was cool because I think Chris and I just always kind of like we bounce around ideas. They don't seem really reachable and like formulated, but then we've done enough stuff. We've worked in enough places where we know how things work. And we're like, well, we're just going to try it. The hell, fuck it. It's going to work.
And I feel pretty fortunate. I can say that we haven't had a flop.
We've had a few like,
oh my God,
shit,
this is going to get
shitty. We're going to change this, but
hard left, not
like,
right.
Or like, he's on the line. He's like, Michael, you got to help me on the line. Come on here. He's like, throwing sautés pans at me. He goes, okay, put it on the plate like this. So it was just always exciting being there because it was like, I was doing something, but then I didn't have any problem interacting in other ways, or plating desserts or whatever. So
I think that's part of the thing that's always been super fun is like we grew up a very different way in that we grew up very similarly, but in a different way to most folks. Food was always part of our background growing up, both Italian Americans, having that, connectivity, working, picking vegetables, growing up around that really kind of, it just made it like natural. So it wasn't like we can't walk into each other's situation and help each other intelligently. It's be like, all right, Michael, tell me what to do. I'll do it however you need me to do it, as much as you need. And I think that's what's great. It's like, okay, show me. Okay, I got you. That's what I've always loved. And it's like, you and I may not always get to hang out, but it's never missing a beat.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of like wherever we left off, we can pick up again, and that's usually, it's cool when you like have friends like that in your life, or just like people that you've worked with that you kind of like, you have the same attitude towards food, towards like just day-to-day stuff, so
that's what makes it fun.
Chris is pretty wacky, but so am I. So I think that like, the wackiness together, we come up with good ideas.
And so like you started with the box, then you've got the key line pairs.
Yeah.
And it just kept growing. People
were just really, we saw that there was an interest. So, Jackie and I started thinking about like, what's the next 8-piece box? And so we came up with the next 8-piece box. And then from there, Jackie was always good. She was always pushing like creatively to like how what's the concept of the business? What are we doing? How are we doing it? And really paying attention to a brand. And so it's like, okay, so we have the 2 8-piece boxes. Why don't we do like a 16-piece boxes, which is the 2 8-piece boxes, which turned out to be the black box. And then, we started doing things like pâte de fruits, like fruit jellies.
Those are my
and
favorite.
dragées. And we were doing like dragées before any chocolatier in the States was really doing dragées, just because I've been around them for so long. And
I got more samples of dragées from you.
You've got some in your bag there.
When Michael was doing testing of dragée, he's like, dude,
is it too hot?
No. It was like, hey Chris, try this. It would be like
Here's
little bags. It was little bags with different numbers. Which one of these do you like?
Yeah.
And then he was like, oh, by the way, here's all the ones I don't like. It was literally like a pail.
Well, I give you like a trimoline bucket or like a glucose bucket.
Oh my God.
The blue bucket was
packed
like
with
5 pounds.
I was like, oh dear Lord, I'm going to explode.
Yeah.
But you can't stop once you started.
Right.
It's like so delicious.
It's like good. Like you coat it with a really good product. So that was like a big thing. We were trying to like be ahead of like old world techniques and introduce them into the US. And now it's difficult because everybody's doing that, and there's a lot of written material, there's a lot of machines, there's a lot of small machines out there.
People are traveled now. People are traveling more. They have access, like we talked about. You did it
right, and they see it.
Yeah.
So it's definitely more challenging, but I really feel like we're kind of reinventing ourselves. This feels like a really great year. Jackie and I are really going to like look at what we're doing and how we're doing it and just do it better. Just never look back. You always kind of think about like, what's the next best thing? It might not be like a new product, but in order to have room for a new product, we have to do all the stuff we do more efficiently. So that's what we talked about previously. So just like, and I see that you do that as well. It's like, all right,
try.
Yeah.
Trying.
It's hard. It's difficult. But so we're still going. Now we have like a much larger line of product. We have 2 stores. We have one in the Ferry Building and one in Dog Patch. And then you went from 450 square feet to 18,000 square feet.
You have a huge online presence.
We have a strong online presence. So it's just managing all of these different parts, but then how do you kind of keep fresh?
And that's, I think, a really good question. I mean, I question that of myself all the time. Like, how do you, like, you've brought in amazing chocolate painters, right?
Right.
You've done that. You do beautiful decorated chocolate eggs. You've done the artist series in San Francisco where you work with a local SF artist to do really cool works on the chocolates. I mean, there's so many cool things. You've done charity chocolates. You've done really cool stuff that's really making people's not only eyes gravitate towards what you're doing, but also flavors that are just really special. And I think that's what makes it fun. And it's like, I remember, you go to Europe, you come back and you're like, dude, look what I found. And it's like,
right.
You bring me these big rubber aprons. It looks like I'm the white rubber aprons that are meant to wipe chocolate off.
Right,
you brought me back those to use
Yeah.
for butchery so I don't get blood all over. And it's just like all these things. It's like your travels, you come back with all new fresh ideas and you're just like running. You know, you do Valrhona school, right?
So, I mean, I have a really great, currently, for a while, I have a very strong relationship with Valrhona. I was like one of their original ambassadors. And the other thing that's really cool about Verona, I was the one that did their first custom blends in the United States. So I actually have 2 custom blends. I have a 64% semi-sweet, and then I have a 45% milk. So there's those 2 custom blends that have, really kind of set us apart because it's chocolates that we actually. So I would go to France and like have a sensory evaluation of cacao beans with the scientists in the Valrhona team to determine which chocolates I like, which then will be made into, a chocolate that was our signature blend that wasn't available to anyone else. So I'm not making chocolate. I'm not a bean to bar guy. I think that's a separate business, but at least I get a little bit more involved with fine tuning and customizing like my flavor profiles, and not just buying stuff. But I still buy a lot of different types of products. We mix it up. But Valrhona's are a key person, and they do things like they send me to France for like a 3-day biology course to learn about sugar and like cream and emulsification, and then we spend like one day in Paris with Patrick Roger, who's like it's like he was like this person that we never thought we could even get close to. Patrick Roger is like this very unique chocolatier in Paris that makes all these. He does all these beautiful sculptures and makes beautiful bonbons, and he has an amazing facility. And so he's a very kind of private person. So for like a team of like 12 people to go there and like hang out with him for the day was really cool. He like hung out with us the whole day. We got to go walk through his whole factory, and he didn't care if we took pictures of anything. He's like,
that's rare.
He's like,
that's
do
really
whatever
rare.
you want. He goes, I don't care. He's like, just enjoy yourself, have fun. Yeah, and he was like, you ask him a question, he'd answer it.
And you bring your bike. You have your Brompton, right? You get your little foldable bike that you brought with you to Paris.
Right.
And you rode around.
Right. I ride to the classes. I ride everywhere. When we go to the Rhone Valley, which is where Valrhona is located in the south of France, in the Rhone Valley, I would bring my bike on the TGV, and then I would just like bicycle around, like go ride on the Rhone for like a couple hours before we had the class, because the classes were long. They were like 7-8 hours, of like talking about sugar, talking about cream, talking about emulsification. And so Valrhona has been very supportive of just kind of making sure people work smarter and understand product and how to work better. And so they've been it's been a cool relationship.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I really feel honored, that I was able to do that. I mean, it's more than just plugging. I don't feel like it's like you're plugging them or they're plugging me. It's kind of like they put up with what I need to do, and if I'm like not certain how to do something, they like help me figure it out. And aside from like, oh, we're just trying to sell you as much product as possible, it's like, hey, could like like if I don't understand something, they're like, well, you could go to our school in France or maybe Brooklyn and work with the team there, and we'll like help you out. So we'll do stuff like that.
So it's like basically
it's a relationship.
It's a long-standing relationship.
Yeah.
Isn't that what it's supposed to be?
It should. Yeah, definitely. Like I think if you have vendors or people that you work with, you want to have this like really good relationship. Like the people we buy our boxes from, they're local. We could buy boxes elsewhere and get them much cheaper. There's very little stand-up box makers in the United States, so we could go to China and get the boxes for like much less. But we try to be loyal to the people that have been helping us like get a leg up. So I try not to switch purveyors unless something goes south or they don't carry a product anymore. I have to go find it someplace else. But I'm very loyal to people that have helped me out.
I mean, that's I think a really important part, because they're there from the beginning when it's tough, and then times change, and if they're always there for you, it's consistency.
Yeah. And
for
like
everybody.
If you can't, if you're having, it's like if you're having difficulty paying a bill, the one thing I learned from suppliers are like, if you call them up and say, hey, listen, I really can't pay you this week, versus like, oh, the check's in the mail, or oh, I didn't see that invoice. They don't want to hear all that crap.
Bullshit. They want to know the truth.
Yeah, you call them up. You say, I can't pay you. Can I pay you next week? And they're like so cool about it. Versus like if you just wind them up and do stuff, and that's why people get cut off. Because they don't like. We all know what's going on, and we know it's a really difficult business, but we're trying to make it happen.
Needs to be a lot of support.
You're doing a
for
lot
each other.
here. You're always making a lot of changes. We're looking at a lot of changes. We're looking at trying to reset our brand. As far as just some looks and feels, and Jack. So that's a big project that Jackie's going to be working on. So we don't really know where that's going, but it's exciting. We don't want to just stay in one place. We want to kind of evolve.
Well,
how do we evolve?
That's a perfect thing. I mean, it's like the city's evolved, right? San Francisco's evolved dramatically.
Yeah.
In the time that we've gotten here.
Yes.
I mean, from the time that you were here, left, and came back, it evolved.
Absolutely.
From Vermont. But I mean, look at the difference from the time that you and I have known each other. It's crazy different. And I think growing and understanding and evolving with the city is really key, but also staying true to yourself and what your customers are looking for in that experience. I mean, we're here for the guest. That smile that they get when they put that chocolate in their mouth is like, it's pretty powerful, right? Like, that's a very olfactory sense. Mm-hmm. Chocolate is very powerful. I mean, every kid Let's be honest.
Right.
Kids go crazy for chocolate, but that sticks with you forever.
Right. I mean, that was what my experience was when I first tasted chocolate. Like, I think, like real chocolate, you know, like I was like chopping up like big, like Nestle's bars, the Gibraltar, the Monogram, whatever they were. They're like these 11-pound bars. Like, this is great chocolate. And like, I just thought there was like milk, dark and white chocolate. I didn't, and like 100%. But then like all of a sudden I started tasting like origin chocolates and, you know, different percentage chocolates and different percent. And you're like, it just opens up this whole new, it opened up this whole new world of like, wow, this is fascinating. Like I had no idea this existed.
The nuances and the flavors are unreal.
Yeah, the colors, the flavors.
I mean, there's so much that I've learned about it from you, and you're like, hey, and then you know me well enough to know you're like, you're gonna like this one. You know, you've always guided me in those like, okay, here's this flavor with this profile. You're gonna dig this one, and I instantly it's like, how do I incorporate that into something savory?
Right,
and that's what makes it fun.
You've done that.
You know, and I love doing those things, and that's what makes it fun. That's the best part about this business is forever learning. I mean, there's so much to learn. Chocolate's evolving, you know, every day, right? People are talking about how to blend the flavors better, how to work with them, how to pair them, how to get more nuances. Chocolate is like wine in my mind. There's so many nuances to it.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, fermentation, roasting, all that stuff. You know, it's really interesting. You know, Valrhona would send me to Peru to go to Origin to look at like a really rare bean that they found called Gran Blanco, which is like also called porcelana in like Venezuela, which is a white bean that was really rare. They thought they lost it. And then like they thought the genetics were gone. And then like they found one in the jungle and they're like, holy cow, this bean, I thought, where did you come from? It's great to see you. And so then they like worked with the locals there, the farmers, to start planting it and growing it. And it's like a 10-year project. And now it's come to fruition. They help them with schooling, water programs, water irrigation programs, all these things for their lifestyle as well. Not just for them to grow cacao and sell it to them. They like looked at the whole how these people live.
That's amazing. And I think a lot of people need to know that too. Like Valrhona is giving back to these people in a bigger way.
Yeah.
It's like building schools, building things for them just to sustain themselves, not just grow chocolate for them.
Right. Absolutely. So that's been really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what's next? What's next on the horizon?
On the horizon
for you guys?
We want to look at kind of building a few new flavors. We're looking at changing some of our bars and playing around with that. But and then we're looking at resetting some of our kind of packaging concepts. If it's like the look and feel, the color, the whatever that palette is. But that's like a long project. But we'll start working on that as well. And we also did things like we installed video screens in our store in the Ferry Building, and I was really opposed to that kind of thing, like having video screens up. But they're these big, high definition screens. But people will walk into our store and they think it was like a jewelry shop or something. Like, what is this, jewelry? I'm like, no, it's chocolate, or whatever. The staff would always have to tell them like what's going on because it's such a different type of look. But it's if the people would go in the shops in Europe, they would understand it. But people that don't, tourists that live in the States, that might live in the middle of the country or whatever, they just don't know what that is.
Well, they know the Hershey store in the middle of Times Square, which is like bars of chocolate and the M&M dudes running around.
Exactly. So, it's like educating them. And so by having the screens up, we have like pictures of our team making chocolate. We have like really beautiful visuals. So they see that this chocolate. So when they walk in, they can see that there's something happening there. So that was a really cool thing to do. And it's like an educational piece. And we're also thinking of maybe at some point having a live feed into our kitchen. So like there could be times where we're running the rover because you can just change it on your phone. You can click on, it's like, hey, let's show them what's happening.
So we're going to see a video of you going through the chocolate and rover.
Exactly. Right.
Michael comes out on the other side.
They're dunking me in like the big, 1,000-pound melter or something. But yeah, I think I'm spending a lot more time with the team and working on systems, tweaking it, and then just kind of making things better.
That's awesome.
I think that's the important thing, and then evolving the line, a little bit here and there. But
That's
still,
great.
I think in order to evolve the line, we got to like figure out what we're doing with what we currently do, and can we do it better or more efficiently.
So I do rapid fire. I'm sure you've heard rapid fire questions. Have you heard that part of the podcast yet?
I don't think so.
Oh,
Okay.
Okay. So, first off, if folks want to get chocolate that are not in the Bay Area, they can go online, right?
Yes.
And you guys try to be really safe in the summertime, and you do certain types of shipping in the summer so the chocolates don't melt.
We ship on ice pack priority overnight.
Okay, so if you guys are interested, I could eat pounds of the dragée gear, trust me, and the pâté de fouille and everything that Michael does. I'm not a big sweet guy, but it's really funny.
They're less sweet.
Yeah, I can sit in Michael's shop for hours. The ladies have asked me to stop sampling because I just keep going. Can I try that one? It's just easier to go watch Michael and eat off the line. Jackie chases me out of that too. But make sure you guys go online, take a look. If not, go into the Ferry Building, see what Michael's doing down there. Super stunning shop. The design is beautiful, and they're always rotating in. Like I said earlier, really cool. Like whether it's an artist theme, the Valentine's Day was really beautiful down there. Then there's also Easter coming up, which is the really cool eggs. Are you doing the eggs again this year?
We're gonna do a variation of those. Yeah, the eggs, and I've been trying to do showpieces or sculptures relating to what we're doing each holiday. So we're just getting ready to install this one because for Valentine's it's called Chemistry of the Heart. That's like the philosophy. So it's like there's like test tubes and things happening and flasks, but they have like little hearts coming out of them and whatever that are printed onto the chocolate. So I'm gonna do like a big piece that looks like a picture frame with all these little images in it. So we trying to connect the dots to like what we're doing, and if we do something that's like larger and showy, it connects to the pieces that's happening as opposed to being a complete disconnect.
That's awesome.
It's like something something completely different. It's like what does that mean? So we're
perfect Mother's Day gift too. Think about that. Perfect Mother's Day gift. Order in advance. They get busy. It's good. So, all right. I just go really quick, right? Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Red or white?
White.
Champagne, rosé?
Champagne. Wait.
Wait.
You said champagne rosé.
Champagne or rosé? Champagne or rosé?
Oh, okay. Rosé.
Either one. There's no wrong answer.
Oh, okay.
I've had people say both.
Oh, okay.
Tequila or bourbon?
Bourbon.
Interesting. Chocolate or fruit when you have dessert?
Fruit and chocolate. Both, I guess.
That's tough, right?
Yeah.
Ice cream or gelato?
Ice cream in the States. Gelato when I'm traveling, like in Italy.
Hamburger or a hot dog?
Hamburger.
Mustard or ketchup?
Ketchup. You weren't too impressed by that, were you?
No, I don't like ketchup. I never have. But that's just me. French fries, onion rings.
French fries.
Okay. Nigiri, sashimi.
Sashimi.
Caviar, sea urchin.
Caviar.
That's a tough one.
Yeah. Well, sea urchin kind of freaks me out.
Why?
I don't know. Like it has to be really fresh and clean and good. I think I've had some that are really funky, and I just like get the gag reflex on it.
It's not happening.
Like that the sea urchins in Santa Barbara, whoever that is.
Yeah,
that stuff's like they get that little wooden box of that. That's pretty amazing.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It just tastes really fresh, and it's so. But I don't know enough about sea urchin to like kind of talk about it.
It's tough. I mean, I think there's some that are really sweet. There's some that can be bitter. It just depends on when, where, how. Like people swear by the Hokkaido, and then there's other people who swear about Santa Barbara, and there's some people that swear about everywhere.
Yeah.
It's all different styles, and I think it's kind of cool when you can taste them next to each other. Then you kind of see.
Well, it's like the terroir of the sea, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's where you're pulling it from.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I totally agree with that. So yeah, Michael, thank you. That's it, dude.
You're welcome.
Super
Thank
fun.
you. This is great. I mean, what an excuse for us to hang out.
I know, exactly.
You know, like we never get to see each other, so I like pedaled down here to like do this little podcast, and hopefully this will like unravel some more times that we can like collaborate together and do something. Like,
there's a couple things coming up that actually we'll talk about offline.
Yes.
So nobody knows what's going on. It's a secret.
Secret conversation.
Welcome to Secrets with Michael Recchiuti and Chris Cosentino. Up next. Shh. Thanks, Michael.
You're welcome.